Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the interview to Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us. We're having some technical issues today, so instead of the usual slides to get started here, we're going to just start out with this slide. I just do want to remind you that this event is being recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. So if you have your camera or microphone on, you give consent for your name and face to appear. Any comments you put in the chat window will not appear into the recording. And so, Tony, thank you very much for being with us today. Tony's topic is the top 10 big mistakes with resume writing. Tony, I'll let you tell people who you are.
All right, very good. I'm the owner and president of Babbage and Associates. I've been in the placement and recruitment business since 1973. That was before fax machines. These phones were black with a dial, and we got resumes delivered by the mail. And so I've been at it for a long time and have seen a lot of changes. I'm the president of Babbage and Associates. We've been around since 1952. I sit down and work a desk myself. I've placed more than 11,000 people in the time that I've been doing this. And I don't know, I've probably sent and used more than 1 million resumes over that period of time. And on most given days, kind of know what works. And what we're going to discuss today are the mistakes that people make in a resume. A little backdrop on it is that there is so much that goes on in looking for a job that a candidate or a job seeker cannot control. One of the things they can control is their resume. And they put so much effort in a resume because it's something they can control. And I've known candidates to take a week to write their resume, a week, something that should take no more than 2 hours because they can control it and they feel like they have an impact. I had a candidate the other day, God bless him, he rewrote his resume 4 different times. And he sends me this every 4. It isn't going to help him any more than the first one did. A resume isn't going to get you a job. It's going to get you an opportunity to interview. But because people can control it, they spend a whole lot of time putting a lot of effort in it, and they probably overdo it. Now, I wrote a whole book on how to write resumes a number of years ago, and it sold really, really well. And my online program, the Job Search Solution, has 200 resumes, samples of 200 resumes. But we want to boil this down and make it simple. And the first mistake that people make in a resume is that they overestimate the value of a resume. They think that it is going to get them a job, and it's not. It's going to get them an interview, hopefully. Sometimes a resume is going to get you an interview, and sometimes it's not going to get you an interview. But you got to see it for what it is. It's a necessary evil in many cases, but it's something that you have to have. And so you got to write a resume. But you got to be a little careful in writing the resume because people can go overboard. You got to remember that the average resume gets scanned. It does not get read. It gets scanned in 10 seconds. People look for 4 things in a resume. Who'd you work for? How long were you there? What did they do? And how well did you do it? That's it. And they scan it. They look for companies they can recognize, companies they understand. They want to understand what your job is. They want to understand how well you did your job. That's it. And it needs to be smash mouth. I mean, what the company did, and don't just put down Oracle Corporation. You got to write down what you did at the Oracle Corporation, Xerox Corporation, any big company. Candidates, I work in the IT sales arena primarily, and candidates will say, well, everybody knows what Oracle does. Yeah, but there's hundreds of thousands of people that work at Oracle. You got to tell people real clearly exactly what you did for Oracle, and then in clear terms that they understand. We'll get to some of that in a minute, but in clear terms that they understand. Most people underestimate the number of resumes that an interviewing or hiring authority receives. On average, it's about 150. I probably get 75 to 80 resumes a day. I don't read every darn one of those things. I scan them. And people think that I've got to come up with this mystical, magical a work of art so that people are going to sit down as they eat their lunch and read through my resume. They're not going to do that. They want something that's going to hit them in the face real fast, and they're going to ask themselves, should I interview this person or shouldn't I interview this person? That's it. That's all they want. They may not, they're not going to read past the first maybe 1.5 pages. They're going to scan. After that, they ain't going to. We got we got one the other day, 27 pages. 27 pages. Now, come on, 27 pages? Come on. That's just, you just don't realize that they're getting inundated with these things. And you got to be ready to be competing with that number of resumes. People overestimate the qualifications of the people that are going to screen, read, or scan and pass their resume along. 60% of the people that review your resume don't really know what they're looking for. They're being told by somebody, look for this and look for that. They don't even know the meaning of them. Okay. And we had a guy one time who, he was a controller of a company. He said, yeah, I want to hire somebody over the Christmas break. My daughter's coming in from college, and she's going to be here over Christmas, and she's going to review resumes and interview people. What? I mean, so don't think that the hiring authorities, the people that really know, and what you have to realize is that really know the give and takes of what you've been doing. They're not probably doing 60% of the time. They're not the ones that are reviewing your resume. The person that's reviewing your resume is being told, look for this, look for that, look for this kind of company, that kind of company, or this kind of responsibility. Now, once in a while, you might get a very experienced recruiter in a company or an HR person that really understands what they're looking for, but don't bank on it. You got to write that resume so that, and keep this in mind, mantra here, a high school senior could understand what you did, who you worked for, how long you were there, and how well you did it. Resume formats are awfully distracting. For goodness gracious sakes, keep it simple and to the point. I got one the other day that was so darn crowded, I could barely read the thing. I got another one the other day that had literally flowers on it. Ugh. I mean, and then I got one the other day that had a ribbon at the top and the guy's name. Unfortunately, he had a ribbon at the top with his name. He had no phone number and no email address on it. Can you believe that? I didn't even know how to reach the guy. I had to email him and tell him to call me because and then I get them sometimes where they got this column down the side and they got their name and their phone number and their email address written vertically on the page, so I had to turn the page or turn my head depending on whether I wanted to look at it. You got to remember that your resume is being compared to 150 others. And if somebody doesn't key in on something really damn quick, they're moving on to the next one because their attitude is, I got so many of these damn things in front of me. I don't need to put up with this. I got one the other day where there was no phone number on it. I mean, come on. I mean, and I called the candidate and he said, oh, no wonder I haven't been getting any calls. No kidding. No wonder you hadn't been getting any calls. Cover letters. A lot of people disagree with me. Cover letters are overrated. In the resume book that I did, now this was about 9 years ago, we did a survey of 4,700 employers that we worked with about what they look for in a resume. And we also asked a question about the cover letter. What was interesting about that is the majority of the response about cover letters was, I only read the cover letter if I read the resume and I'm interested in the resume. So if I'm interested in the resume, then I might read the cover letter. Now, I think where it's important is when you send these electronically, that in the email that you send your resume with, you give 3 or 4 or 5 bullet points about why you'd be good at the job. But they need to be short and they need to be right to the point, almost to the point of you should consider me as a candidate because bam, bam, bam. And then you hit them in the mouth with 3 or 4 bullet points as to why you ought to be a good candidate. You do that, then you don't need a cover letter. Now, a lot of people disagree with me, but most employers, they don't want to read a cover letter. They don't want to read an objective. They don't want to read a summary. They want to know where'd you work, what'd you do, how'd you do it, and how well did you do it. And then they're either going to call you in or they're not going to call you in. Um, Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. This is just awful. Make sure your LinkedIn profile agrees with your resume. Now, I handle, or supposedly, some pretty intelligent guys and gals. Once a week, at least once a week, I get a candidate either questioned or eliminated because their resume and their LinkedIn profile don't match. Now, how bright do you have to be to get to do that? I mean, to get that, I don't know, but it's just amazing. I have lots of trouble with LinkedIn profiles. It's another discussion, but if you don't have your picture on LinkedIn or your LinkedIn profile doesn't match your resume, you're going to get eliminated. Remember, they're comparing you with 150 other people, and if they see one little glitch, I had a guy tell me the other day, well, I just didn't like the way his resume looked. I said, what's that got to do with his performance? Look at his track record. Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess I'll see him. But, you know, I have a number of employers. I had a guy yesterday where I tried to get the candidate the interview. He said, don't send me the resume, send me his LinkedIn profile because that's what I'm most interested in. So please don't do that. One size fits all. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. They send the same resume to everybody for the same job. Hey, we got technology. Okay, you can customize your resume for um, a particular job. And if you've done research on the job, done research on the company, you know the kind of people that they're interested in hiring, and you don't want to have one size fit all. You want to customize the resume to fit the particular job. Oh, length. No more than 2 pages, maybe 2.5. Uh, I had a candidate that I actually placed with a company whose his experience, the 15 years that he cut off of his resume was the most important aspect of what they were looking for. And I happened to know it because I'd worked with him a number of years ago. So before he ended up having an interview with the CEO, and before he had that interview with the CEO, I had him add back those 15 years that he had cut off. Lots of people cut that time off because they think it's gonna impact and it's gonna tell them how old I am. Yeah, that's right. They're gonna find out how old you are. I don't care when, they're gonna find out. And if for some reason they don't want to hire you because you're old, fat, short, pink, green, female, male, whatever the reason is, okay, fine. Tell me now. Don't tell me then. And but the length, page and a half, 2 pages maybe, but no more than that. If you want to summarize what you did in your first 20 years of your 40-year career, summarize it at the bottom of the second page maybe. Objectives and summaries. Your objective, nobody cares about your objective. They care about their objective. And when you're going to help them get to their objective, then they might be interested. But when you put on your objective that you want to be associated with a dynamic, aggressive, wonderful organization, it's all poop. Nobody cares about that. Get it off of there. The, you know, Summaries. Nobody cares about your summary. I had a guy one time that put in his summary that he was the #1 salesperson in the world with the company. 15 years ago is what it turned out. So nobody cares about that summary. The problem with summaries is people put down all of their accolades on those summaries, and the people that are reading their resume don't associate what their successes were with a particular job. So I recommend put down your successes, but put them under the companies that you've worked for. And the more numbers that you can produce, stories sell, numbers tell. The more numbers you can produce, and the more you bold those numbers and make them stand out. So when people are scanning that resume, it hits them in the face, the better off you are. Dates, make sure your dates are correct. It's best to have months on there. I know people that put down years because they fudge a little bit on they were out of work for 6 or 7 months. I could probably live with that. An employer that's interested in hiring you, if you could put down the dates of 2020 to 2021, and that could cover either 6 months or it could cover 2 years. So I recommend putting down the months and the year, but I could live with years. Um, but make sure they're on. I got one the other day, just yesterday. I called the guy up. I said, "You got no dates on this?" He said, "Well, I didn't want to tell him how long I was there." What? What do you mean you didn't want to tell him how long you were there? "Uh, Well, I was there such a short period of time, I didn't want to tell him." Yeah, right. Okay, next. I mean, cut it out. Titles, um, and other basics. Put a common title on your job. Uh, Business development manager can mean a lot of different things. If your job was sales, don't put down some cockamamie title that somebody gave you because that's the title of. If people can't understand what that title is immediately, then they pass it up. And customer liaison, or I've seen some just dumb stuff that nobody understands. And when I say to the candidate, "What's with this?" They go, "Well, that's what my title was." Well, yeah, your title might be Grand Poobah, but what does that mean to somebody? Nothing. So you put down president or whatever you were. Change your title if it's confusing, because most people may, if they don't understand the title and understand how long you were there and what you did and how you did it and how well you did it, then they're going to move on. Um, Other basic types of things is when you can describe when when the description of what you did starts out with "I," you're on the wrong track. Okay, you don't have to write sentences on this thing. Okay, you just want to put down what you did in terms people can see really, really quickly. Don't make it so long, and go into this. I did this and I did that, and the company did this and the company did that. You're not trying to tell a story with your resume. You're trying to get an interview with your resume. The wrong resume strategy. This is a real challenge because people think, well, and I get resumes all the time where I can tell that people just, they saw me on LinkedIn and they just blasted the resume. Well, I'm a recruiter, so I don't mind that. I'd rather have that than not. But the best resume strategy you can have is to respond to an outfit, whether they have an opening or not, and get that resume in the hands of a hiring authority, sending it to a link, human resources, or sending it to a answering an ad or that kind of thing. Okay, I guess maybe it's better than not, but people confuse activity with productivity. And there's saying in our business of spray and pray. They just send these resumes out. They just keep hitting that send button and hitting that send button. If you know, for instance, a company, if you're an accountant and you know that a company is looking for an accountant, find out who the controller is and send that resume to the controller. Find out who the accounting manager is and send that resume to the accounting manager. Try to avoid the people that are being inundated by all kinds of resumes. If you go on LinkedIn and you know somebody that works at the company, you call that person up and you say, hey, I understand your company is looking for an accountant. Do you know the controller? Do you have any connections in that? Try to find who, the closer you are to the person with pain, the person that's actually having to do the job that they are looking to fill, the better off you are. Just randomly sending the thing out to just a whole bunch of responses to ads and things like that, I guess it's a strategy, but it's a poor strategy. You have to have a better strategy than that. And getting that resume, and keep that in mind, getting that resume in the hands of somebody with pain is what you want to do. And so think about it. If you're a salesperson, it's the sales manager. If you're an accountant, it's the controller or accounting manager. If you're a production person, it's a production manager. If you're the plant manager, it might be the manufacturing engineer or something like that. And that's easy to find on LinkedIn these days. You can find out who does what in a company and get that resume in front of them. I don't have a problem with sending it through LinkedIn. Some of my candidates have done that before. I've done that before. I don't know that it gets the attention that when you send it to them directly. And I know people say, well, I don't know their email address. Come on, you extrapolate their email address. Find out whoever you're sending the email to, you're supposed to send it to, and extrapolate their email address with their name and their address. Just try to get it in front of people that have the pain. The people that are closer to the job that have the pain are the ones that know what they can get away with, how much experience they might be able to tolerate or not tolerate, depending on the person. That's simple. That's it. For an expanded version of this, you can go to thejobsearchsolution.com. And I have a whole, I have 3 or 4 training modules in there about what to do with your resume. But those are the biggest mistakes that people make when they write their resume and what they do with it.
Tony, great. Questions, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask away, because you have an expert here. You have somebody who knows, he sees lots of resumes every day. So if you have a question, please. Russ.
I have a question. I was just curious, should you put your LinkedIn, the link on top of your resume, or is that just clutter and take up space?
No. I would recommend putting your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn link, and your phone number, for goodness sake. And also with your phone number, make it big enough to read. I got one the other day. I had to squint. Now I admit I'm old. Okay. All right. But if I have to squint to read the damn, one the other day I got, it was, I think it was pink or some stupid color that wasn't black and white. I mean, it was just dumb. And I had to squint to look at the damn thing. And then I couldn't tell the difference between the 4 and the 9 and the 5 and the whatever. Look, anytime you're making me work in looking at your resume, anytime you're making me looking at your resume, and I have to go more than just look at it, look at the number, scan the resume, call the person, then you're making it harder for me. So you want to keep it simple. Make your name bold, big enough to where everybody can read it, your phone number bold, your LinkedIn profile so that people can link on it. But yes, I recommend that.
You don't use an ATS or anything to do all the screening first to kick out all the books?
No. And those things are, I got to tell you, they are, that's so overblown about, about putting in keywords and all of that kind of thing. That don't buy it. It's not really.
Well, you need it for an ATS system, but you don't need it for Tony. You don't need it for any of Tony's people, because Tony's people are going to look and say, Do you have qualifications? Do you meet what we're looking for? And if you customize your resume, you're going to get a phone call. You're going to get ahead there.
Well, I'll call people based on who they work for before, because I know so many of these companies that I know the culture of. I can almost envision what they look like because they come from certain companies that I've worked with before. I've seen candidates from. So we are a little different in that sense that we scan and look at every resume. And I'll scan it a little more deeply because I can see sometimes the gold in the resume that a candidate may not even communicate.
So Tony, so how often you looking at resumes? I mean, I guess they blindly send them in, or they're sending them in because of a specific job you have listed on your website. How often when you get somebody's resume and you look at it, you go through and go, we need to modify this to sell to the before we send it to the customer?
95% of the time. And now once I get the candidate in and I've met with them, then I'll say, I'll send them. I've got some templates that we use, and most people just overdo it. If they just remember, they want to know who I worked for, what that company. That's one of the biggest sins everybody creates. I mean, I can't tell you. Probably 1 out of 3 resumes, well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but it seems that way, that 1 out of 3 resumes that I get, 1 out of 5, whatever, they don't tell me what the damn company does. Now there's 7.1 million businesses in the United States. How in the hell am I going to know what your company did? And they go, oh, okay. So all you got to do is put the name of the company and then a dash and then explain what the company did in 4 or 5 words. That's that simple. It's not hard to do, but they, and this poor gal the other day, she listed 4 companies that nobody ever heard of. I didn't even hear of them. And she didn't even say what she did there. She didn't say what the company did. And then she didn't say what she did. Now, she was responding to a sales job, so I assumed she was a salesperson, but you can't always assume that. So you got to tell people what your company does because they don't know. And if they can't find out really quick, and if you think they stop and they go to Google or they go to LinkedIn to try to find out what your company did, no. They got 150 of these to go through. They're not doing that.
Right. So, I mean, so think about this. Tony's been doing this since what? You've been doing this since the 70s?
Yes.
And Tony doesn't even know all the companies here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been doing this since 2007. And I'm just amazed every week when people mention a new company. It's like, I've never heard of that company. What do they do?
There are 139,000 businesses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Come on.
Right.
There's no way they're going to know what they do.
Yeah. Karen, I see you've unmuted your mic. Do you have a question?
Yes. Tony, is it beneficial at all to you, from our perspective, to include an image of us as candidates?
I used to say no because I didn't want a candidate eliminated because of somebody just didn't like the picture. Right. And I get that from LinkedIn. Okay. But now that LinkedIn has these pictures, it's okay. I still think it's better not to.
Okay.
Look, you're trying to get, most of the people that are reading your resume or looking at your resume are trying to screen you out. I am trying to screen you in. You are trying to screen yourself in.
Right.
And so anything that's on there that might screen you out, I want to stay away from. So I even tell people, I got one the other day. It said more than 30 years of experience. Oh, no. Don't do that. That's anything. So when it comes to images, I think you have to put an image on LinkedIn. If you don't have one,
right,
and people don't like it, but I wouldn't put one on your resume. I put one on LinkedIn because it's conventional to have it. And I might say along that line, look, you're not trying to get a date, so a sexy picture doesn't help. I had a candidate eliminated a few years ago because he had a picture of himself with the berry shot. And the company that I sent him to said, we don't like people that shoot bears. I mean, what the hell's that got to do with it? I had a CEO not too long ago that was kissing a dolphin. What the hell? I mean, come on, think about it. This is business, and I admit that LinkedIn is a little more social than it might otherwise be, but you got to think of this as business, and people are looking for reasons to eliminate you. Don't give them reasons to eliminate you. I appreciate that you want to coach your kids in baseball. I appreciate that you want to be a basketball coach. I appreciate that you love fishing, but that's not a place for it on LinkedIn, and it's sure as hell not a place for it on your resume.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen, thank you for that. So Mimi, I think that's, sorry if I butchered your name. I see you've unmuted your mic.
Yes, hi, it's Jiminy. So,
Hi, Jiminy.
hi, thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Tony, so much for the information. It's very helpful. I did have a quick question for you. With regard to certifications, so while I'm looking to find a job, I've been getting my certifications in agile methodology. So
Yes.
put those certifications under education. So will I put it under my bachelor's degree in business administration, or would I make a separate section for the certification?
I don't think it matters as much as it matters that it's visible and people can see it. Okay, so whether you put it under education or you put it, I recommend when you have specifications like that to put it on the top of your resume somewhere so people can see it, and I'd bold it. Okay, I'd make it a little bold, not a little, I'd bold it so that people can see that you have it. Okay. Now, if you've graduated from like the military academies or Yale or Princeton or, a Ivy League college or university, or you graduated cum laude or from any place, then I would put that on the top of your resume and put, when you put your education there, put it there, because people like that.
Okay, we're in the UK, we don't have that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but any accolades like that, or number of degrees or that kind of thing, I'd be a little careful about number of degrees. I've had people with PhDs get eliminated because why would anybody with a PhD want to work here? So, but that's where you can customize your resume. But if you have lots of certifications or just a few, I would put them where people could read them and see them. And one of the other reasons is it shows that you're personally growing and that you're interested in growth, and you're interested in becoming better at what you do, and you're willing to invest in it.
Okay, and I did have one more question, if I may.
Sure.
Would you put any languages that you speak on your resume?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Where the world is flat, and the more languages you can speak and communicate fluent in whatever, the better off you are.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Karen, do you have another question?
Yes, I like the way you can anticipate when I want to ask something.
Well, I see, the reason I know is I see your mic unmuted. So that's how I know that you must have a question, because your mic's open.
Okay. Yes. What about recommendation letters? When or if we should send those?
I mean, those are, my mom always thought I was good. I never, she died, but then, I know if I got a recommendation from, some big shot that's, I don't know, I might, but those kind of things are lots of fabrication. I mean, if you got them, that's okay. I've had candidates with brag books, where they go through the accolades they've gotten and the and the references they've gotten, and they show them to employers. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
okay. It doesn't hurt if now if somebody knows somebody that you worked with before,
Right.
or you worked for before, and they have a relationship with them, then
Mhm.
yeah, that means something.
Okay.
But I wouldn't go overboard. If you got them, use them, but then I wouldn't, you don't need to garbage
Beat the
up
bush.
somebody's inbox with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
the
right,
fact that
thank
probably
you.
most recruiters are only going to see the top half of the first page, and they may not
Right.
get to page 2 and 3.
That's right.
They probably won't get to any reference letters if you attach those at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe after you've had a conversation, maybe, but yeah.
I had a
Okay.
candidate the other day, for instance, that he sells SAP projects, and
Mhm.
he sent a list of all of the SAP projects that he sold in the last 2 years,
Mhm.
who he sold it to, the value of it, and that kind of thing. I've been sending that with his resume to my clients, okay, because
Mhm.
that means something to them. So
Mhm.
something like that, yeah, that may very well be of value.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions? Questions? All right, well, I guess not. So Tony, if you had to pick 2 of your top 10 resume picks, what would your top 2 things be?
Tell people what you did, and tell people 3, what your company does, what you did, and how well you did it. If you just keep that simple stuff in mind, and just write it out so a high school senior could understand it, then not your kid, but somebody else's kid, then you're set. That's all you really need. It's nothing mystical, nothing magical. I hope there are no, I need to be careful about this. I love resume writers. I think they're really wonderful. But I will say this, a resume writer writes your resume based on what they think you're going to like. It
Mhm.
may have absolutely nothing to do with what an employer might like. In fact,
Mhm.
the other day, one of those resumes I got that didn't say what the company did was written by a resume writer. Well, I appreciate that, but it's not good. So, just keep it simple, to the point, and then, pick up the phone and call somebody.
Well, Tony, thank you very, very much. Here is Tony's LinkedIn. This is what Tony looks like on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to connect with Tony, you're welcome to do so. Please check out Babbage and Associates. Check out their websites. They've got a lot of jobs listed there. And if you see a job that you're qualified for, that you know you can do the job, send Tony an email, send the person listed on the job listing, that you're qualified, that you saw Tony do a resume class, and you'd like to talk with them. It would be very, very beneficial.
Jeff, I have a question, but I did want to say, because it's very loud where I am, I wrote it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. I have on my LinkedIn my current job, my volunteer work as an executive chair for FANG to keep me currently employed, but my resume starts with my last real job. Is that an issue? So if you're doing something between your last job and now, it's a volunteer thing. Do you want to list that as something on your job?
Yes,
On your
I would, yes, to fill in the gaps. Okay, because if you haven't worked at a job, a paying job, or that kind of thing, then I would put that kind of thing down, because it shows what you've been doing, even if it's volunteer work.
Both on LinkedIn and on my resume.
Yes.
So I
'Cause when
should put it
people-
as a job and then volunteer.
Well,
work.
yeah, volunteer work, since, here's the reason. If the last job you have on there is 2019, and then it stops, people wonder what you've been doing since then. And they're always going to assume the worst. You've been in jail or recovering from something, And, and so I would recommend that kind of thing if you've been doing it.
Okay, so I should,
Gaps in a resume will always raise eyebrows about what's going on, even if it's raise children, that kind of thing. And if you're going to do that, then you put in there, I've been raising kids for the past 5 years. They're of school age now, and I'm free to go back to work.
I mean,
so
I
just
even,
like a 1 or 2 liner, just put it there as my very last, as my most current position.
Yes.
Okay. And also you said about knowing what kind of company, the name of my company has the word bank in it. I don't need to describe that, do I?
No, if you work at a bank, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. As long as the job you had in the bank is fairly common to banking.
Yes. Okay,
yeah, I mean,
thank
and
you.
I would say if it's Chase or Wells Fargo, something like that. But if it's a small bank that maybe people haven't heard of in that area, you may want to say, small regional bank or something like that. A little bit of definition.
Yeah, that's good. It's
Right.
better to
guess-
over define it a little bit than it is to just assume everybody's going to catch on.
Can I ask another question, Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
I've got a big gap in my resume, and like in October, it's going to be 2 years. And what happened was the job. I actually left the job I had in October 2019 because it just wasn't a good fit for me anymore. And after that, I took time off, helped my brother, went back home up north to elder care issues. And then in the beginning of 2020, I started looking, things were going good, had a few bites, but then COVID set in. But then after that, I got sick, real sick. And I'm still recovering from it. I'm doing better. Had one surgery. I got another one next week, but I'm already on the track to, full recovery. And like in October, that's when I want to start looking again. And so on my resume, would you just put like a one-liner, elder care,
Yeah.
medical leave?
Yeah, elder
And if
care,
they wanna know-
care for elderly parent or whoever it was, but make sure you communicate that the issue has been resolved.
I'm a family caregiver because I have that simultaneously. That's also why I have a 3-year gap.
Yeah, being a caregiver is fine. Just you gotta let people know that it's been resolved. Because if you don't say it's been resolved, then you're going to wind up, they're going to wonder, well, is this going to reoccur? I mean, what happened here?
Yeah.
And, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because the biggest gap was due to my illness, which is, I'm recovering from it and I'll be okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say that. I just would say, helping a caregiver for ill relative and situation has been resolved.
So you wouldn't even put anything about my illness, like medical
No.
leave?
No.
Oh,
Because
okay.
people are always afraid that you're going to come in and get sick. And
Yeah,
then
that's
you're
what I
gonna-
was wondering.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I wasn't. What it is, I mean, I just got arthritis real bad, and I'm getting new hips and stuff. So, I mean, I'm not going to have that problem again.
Yeah, well, but still, I wouldn't. On the
But
resume, I wouldn't throw that red flag up.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I was just wondering about that. So you just leave it with the elder care thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But make sure you communicate it's been resolved.
Yeah, it has.
So, because they don't think you're going to come in and then you're going to take time off to go take care of whatever.
Yeah. So just a one-liner.
Yes.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you very, very much.
Pleasure.
Let me just share a couple things. We do have a sample resume, a sample one-page bio, a sample T cover letter. If you'd like to get any of those documents, you're welcome to send an email to resume@careerdfw.org, resume@careerdfw.org. And if you do, please let me know what you're looking for. Just you're looking for the documents from the resume seminar. I'll be sure to get those to you. It'll either be Friday or Saturday before I get back to that email account. But if you'd like to get that, you're welcome to do that. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training every day of the week. Today was our 323rd workshop we put on since COVID started. Tomorrow morning for the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, we have a speaker talking about how writing a book can help your career. I'm sure everybody here, what you've done, you've got a lot of experience. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Maybe you don't really want to write a book, but maybe this would be a good opportunity to learn how to write a blog post or how to write an article on LinkedIn that tells people what it is you do and what kind of knowledge you can share. So join us tomorrow morning, 9:30 at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. Next Monday, we'll have a speaker talking about networking. On Tuesday, LinkedIn search engine optimization for LinkedIn Tuesdays. Next Wednesday for our interview session, we'll be on session number 13. We would have completed all 13 sessions. This will be for the 4th time. Avoiding interview crashes, just common mistakes that people make during the interview process. So you can join us next Wednesday for that. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. On the YouTube channel, it looks something like this. It is the Career USA YouTube channel. Click on playlist where you see the green arrow. I wish that would default in, but it doesn't default. And then down at the bottom, pick whatever playlist you want, but don't click the video. Click where it says view full playlist, where you see the red arrow, and then up will come a list of all the different topics and titles and who's been talking for each presentation. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops from some other source and you'd like to join a mailing list, you can join the Career USA mailing list at Career USA +subscribe at groups.io. I'll put that up at the very, very end. You'll never get spam, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and the Zoom link of the day. So that way you'd be able to click right on the link and be able to join our Zoom every day. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Tony is a volunteer. He volunteered to present today. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I've never gotten paid to do any of this over the last 13 years. I just do this because we want to help you land your next great opportunity. Career DFW survives on donations. Please consider making a donation when you land your next job. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow morning in the morning. Otherwise, we'll see you maybe next week. So Tony, thank you once again.
Thank you all very much, and thanks for your patience and understanding of my incompetency when it comes to technology.